Melissa, get down here right now. Andrew's furious voice shook the walls of the Buckhead house. Evelyn Parker froze in the kitchen doorway as her son hurled a stack of documents onto the desk. Why didn't you tell me the house was in Mom's name? Why didn't you tell me about the mansion in Key West, the accounts, the millions? Melissa's face drained of color, her polished mask slipping as Andrew's rage grew. Evelyn stepped forward, her heart pounding. For months she had endured humiliation in silence, treated like a burden in her own home. But now the truth was out, and her daughter-in-law's carefully built empire of lies was collapsing. What would you do if you discovered the person tearing your family apart was secretly plotting to steal everything? Stay with me, because this story of betrayal, dignity, and redemption will leave you breathless. The rain fell heavy over Atlanta that Tuesday afternoon, as if the sky itself was mourning. Evelyn Parker stood beside the mahogany casket of her husband Richard, the man she had loved faithfully for 42 years. The Buckhead cemetery was quiet except for the whispers of umbrellas shifting against the drizzle and the sound of Chloe and Ethan, her 12 and 10-year-old grandchildren, sobbing softly as she held their hands. Evelyn kept her composure just as Richard would have wanted. She greeted mourners, thanked friends for their condolences, and swallowed the grief that threatened to break her. At her side stood Melissa Turner, her daughter-in-law, lips painted in a perfect shade of crimson, her face an elegant mask. To outsiders she looked supportive, but Evelyn saw the truth in her calculating eyes. Melissa scanned the crowd like a hawk, memorizing faces, judging connections. Even here, even now, she was plotting. Andrew, Evelyn's only son, stared at the ground, lost in his own grief, never noticing the cold glances his wife threw his mother's way. By the time they left the cemetery, the city lights of Atlanta blurred against Evelyn's tears as she sat silently in the back of Andrew's sleek black Mercedes. Melissa drove with one hand lightly gripping the steering wheel, her manicured nails tapping out an impatient rhythm. Every so often she exchanged knowing looks with Andrew in the mirror, as if they had already decided something Evelyn didn't yet know. When they pulled into the circular driveway of the Buckhead house, her house, the one she and Richard had bought 20 years earlier, Evelyn felt her heart stop. 3 of her old leather suitcases were stacked neatly by the garage. Confused, she pointed to them. "What are my bags doing out here?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Melissa turned with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, Evelyn, I thought it was obvious. Things are going to change now that Richard is gone." Andrew lit a cigarette, avoiding her gaze. His silence cut deeper than any words. Melissa stepped closer, her tone condescending. "Andrew and I have been talking. We're responsible for you now. But to make it work, we need some ground rules." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Responsible for me? Melissa, this is my home. Richard and I—" Melissa interrupted sharply. It was his house. But according to the will, everything passes to Andrew, which means we're the owners now. The lie struck Evelyn like a slap. She had been there when Richard wrote his will. She knew exactly what it said. But Andrew, trusting, vulnerable, believed the story Melissa had woven for him. Melissa walked over to the bags and tapped them with the tip of her stiletto. "You can stay, of course, but you'll be moving into the room by the garage. It's small, but it'll suit you. The master bedroom is ours now, and the kids need their own rooms." Andrew finally spoke, his voice low, ashamed. "Mom, it's just temporary, until we figure things out." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears as she looked toward the small, damp room. Melissa referred to a room with a rusted twin bed and a single window facing the alley where garbage trucks clattered every morning. And naturally, Melissa continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We'll expect you to contribute. It's not fair for Andrew to shoulder everything. You can cook, clean, watch the kids. You know, earn your place here." Evelyn froze. In the span of one day, she had gone from grieving widow to unwanted burden, from the woman of the house to a servant in the shadows. She glanced at her grandchildren, Chloe and Ethan, who watched with wide, uncertain eyes. The confusion and pity on their faces broke her heart more than Melissa's words ever could. That night, Evelyn sat on the edge of the narrow bed in her new room, staring at the peeling paint on the walls. For the first time since Richard's death, she let the tears flow. But she didn't just cry for him. She cried for the realization that the family she had given her life to saw her as nothing more than a weight to carry. What Melissa and Andrew didn't know, what no one knew, was that Richard had prepared for this moment. In his final years, as his health weakened He had carefully secured Evelyn's future. Accounts, investments, property, all in her name. And hidden among his documents, Evelyn had discovered something extraordinary. Just days before the funeral, a seaside mansion in Key West, Florida. Richard had bought it as a surprise gift for their 40th anniversary. Evelyn pressed her hand against her chest, remembering the photo of the house. The white walls, the tall glass windows facing the endless blue of the ocean. She could almost hear Richard's voice telling her not to worry, that he had planned everything. Melissa thought she had won. She thought she had stripped Evelyn of her dignity, her power. But Evelyn was no helpless widow. She was patient. She was watching. And when the moment came, she would show them who truly held the power in this family. The first weeks in that suffocating little garage room were the hardest Evelyn Parker had ever endured. Every morning at dawn, she woke to the growl of garbage trucks outside her window. Melissa would appear at her door in a silk robe, barking orders like a queen addressing her maid. Coffee ready at 7 sharp, Evelyn. Andrew wants eggs. Benedict, not scrambled. Don't forget to iron my blue dress. Not once did she say please or thank you. Andrew barely looked at his mother anymore. Whenever she tried to talk to him, his eyes drifted back to his phone. Melissa handles these things better, Mom. I trust her judgment. Judgment, Evelyn thought bitterly, that stripped her of dignity, one command at a time. Even the children had begun to change. Chloe, once her shadow, now looked embarrassed when friends came over and saw her grandmother scrubbing floors. Ethan, too young to understand, asked innocently, "One day, Grandma, why don't you live in a real bedroom anymore? Mommy says you can't afford your own house." Evelyn swallowed her tears and forced a smile. "Things changed when Grandpa died, sweetheart. But don't worry about me. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Every day was another cut, another humiliation. Patricia Melissa had turned her into free help. The once proud mistress of the house had become invisible, existing only to serve. Until one morning while dusting the living room, Evelyn overheard Melissa whispering on the phone to her sister. "It's exhausting having her here all the time," Melissa complained, dragging her feet through the house like a sad little ghost. "But Marcus feels guilty, so I play along. Honestly, Diane, it's like free housekeeping. She cooks, she cleans, she watches the kids. Why would I pay for staff when I've got her?" Evelyn froze behind the door, clutching the rag in her hands until her knuckles turned white. Free housekeeping. That was all she was to her daughter-in-law. But that night, lying awake in the cold, narrow bed, Evelyn remembered something Melissa didn't know. Richard had protected her. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't penniless. She had accounts, investments in a seaside mansion in Key West waiting for her. And now she had a reason to fight back. The very next day, when Melissa was at her yoga class and Andrew was at work, Evelyn made the call she had been avoiding. "Mr. Clark," she said nervously when her husband's attorney answered. "This is Evelyn Parker. I think it's time we talked." There was a pause, then his steady voice replied, "Mrs. Parker, I've been waiting for this. There are matters you need to know, urgent matters. Can you come to my office today?" That afternoon, Evelyn sat across from Stephen Clark in his Buckhead office, the polished wood desk between them. He laid out document after document. The house was in a trust with her name on it. The accounts, millions, investments, bonds, and finally a thick folder with a photograph of the Key West mansion Richard had secretly bought for her. "This is all yours," Evelyn Clark said softly. "Your husband was meticulous. He wanted to ensure you'd never be vulnerable to anyone. Conservatively speaking, between the house, the investments, and the estate, you're worth about $17 million. $17 million. Evelyn gripped the edge of the desk, her heart racing. While she had been treated like a burden, sleeping by the garage, she had been a millionaire all along. When she returned home that evening, Melissa was in the kitchen, her voice sharp as she rehearsed instructions for an upcoming dinner with Andrew's boss. "Make sure the champagne is chilled, Evelyn. And please don't embarrass us with your sad face in front of our guests." Evelyn smiled faintly, but inside a fire had been lit. She was no longer the broken widow they thought she was. She was the woman Richard had prepared for battle. And within days, fate handed her a weapon she hadn't expected. It started with suspicion. Melissa left one Friday afternoon for yoga, dressed too perfectly, extra perfume, high heels, instead of sneakers, lipstick brighter than usual. Evelyn's instincts screamed. Quietly, she followed. Melissa didn't drive toward the studio. She drove downtown straight to the lobby of a luxury hotel. Evelyn watched from a distance as Melissa met a man in his 40s, sharp suit, confident smile. They embraced like lovers before sitting at the bar. He handed her documents and she signed them with a grin. When they kissed, Evelyn's heart stopped. Later, while cleaning Melissa's room, Evelyn confirmed everything. Melissa had left her laptop open and email glowing on the screen. "My love, the divorce papers are almost ready. Once we know the exact inheritance amount, we can proceed. Marcus suspects nothing. Signed, Jason Miller." Her hands trembled as she snapped photos of the screen. The woman who had thrown her into the garage wasn't just cruel, she was betraying her son, planning to take everything and run. That night, lying awake in the dark, Evelyn realized the game had changed. She wasn't just fighting for dignity anymore. She was fighting to protect her son, her grandchildren, and Richard's legacy. And for the first time in months, she smiled. Melissa had underestimated her, and soon the daughter-in-law who thought she held all the power would discover she had been living in the palm of Evelyn Parker's hand all along. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If you discovered your daughter-in-law was cheating and plotting against your child, would you reveal it immediately or wait for the perfect moment? Do you think Andrew will believe his mother once the truth comes out, or will Melissa twist him further? And what would you do if you had millions hidden away while being treated like a servant? Stay quiet or strike back. The morning it all came crashing down began like any other. Evelyn Parker was in the kitchen preparing lunch when she heard Andrew's voice bellow from Richard's old office. "Melissa, get down here right now." Her heart froze. She dried her hands and stepped into the hallway, just in time to see Melissa racing down the stairs, her face pale. Andrew stood rigid, fists clenched, a pile of documents scattered across the desk behind him. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice trembling with rage. "Why didn't you tell me the house was in a trust under Mom's name? Why didn't you tell me about the accounts, the mansion in Key West, the millions? You made me believe she was helpless, that she needed us." Melissa's mouth opened, but no words came. For once, the woman who always had an answer had nothing. Andrew's voice rose thick with betrayal. "You lied to me. You lied about everything. You let me humiliate my own mother while she was the owner of this house." From the doorway, Evelyn stepped forward. The truth had finally reached her son, but the sight of his anguish broke her heart. Andrew turned to her, eyes wide and red. "Mom, is it true you had money this whole time?" Evelyn took a steady breath. "Yes. Richard made sure I would never be vulnerable. But I needed to know how you would treat me if you thought I had nothing. I needed to see the truth." Melissa's voice cracked like glass. "She manipulated us. She sat back and watched us struggle while she had millions." No, Evelyn's voice was firm, clear. "I didn't manipulate anyone. I endured humiliation so I could see who you truly were when you thought power was on your side." Her eyes locked on Melissa's. "And you showed me everything I needed to know." Andrew dropped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "God, what have I done?" Melissa, realizing her control was slipping, lashed out. "Don't you see, Andrew? She's been playing you all along. I did this for us, for our future." Evelyn reached into her apron pocket and pulled out her phone. "Then perhaps you should explain this," she said, scrolling through her photos before holding the screen up. There they were, Melissa and Jason Miller at the hotel bar, kissing, signing papers. The email calling him, "My love, the divorce documents." The blood drained from Melissa's face. "Evelyn, don't." Andrew snatched the phone, his hands shaking as he read every word. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with horror. "Jason, you were planning to leave me and take everything." Melissa's mask shattered. Gone were the crocodile tears, the carefully rehearsed sweetness, her expression twisted with venom. "Yes, because you're weak, Andrew. You let your mother control you. I was never going to waste my life chained to you and your guilt-ridden family." Andrew staggered back as if struck. His voice broke. "Get out," Melissa laughed bitterly. "Get out. This isn't your house, Andrew. It's hers. And believe me, she'll never forgive you for what you did to her." But Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes calm, her voice steady. "Melissa Turner, you underestimated me. You thought you could use me, strip me of dignity, and then discard me. But this is my house, my life, and you no longer have a place in either." Melissa's lips curled in a sneer, but when Andrew shouted, "Leave now," his voice stronger than she'd ever heard, she realized her game was over. She grabbed her purse, threw one last venomous look at Evelyn, and stormed out. The front door slammed shut, leaving behind a silence so heavy it seemed to press on the walls. Andrew turned to his mother, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I stood by while she degraded you. I let her convince me you were a burden. I don't know how to live with that." Evelyn reached out and took his hands. "Andrew, you were blinded by someone you trusted. Yes, you failed me, but you came back to the truth, and that matters more than the failure." His shoulders shook as he clung to her. "I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." In the weeks that followed, the divorce was swift. Melissa didn't fight. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She vanished with Jason, leaving Chloe and Ethan behind. For the children, the absence of their mother was painful, but Evelyn made sure they knew love still surrounded them. "Your mother made choices," she told them gently one evening, "but that doesn't mean you have to stop loving her. Love doesn't excuse mistakes, but it doesn't disappear because of them either." Slowly, the house in Buckhead began to feel different. Evelyn no longer slept in the garage room. She returned to the master bedroom that had once been hers and Richard's. Andrew moved into the guest room carrying the weight of regret, but also the determination to be a better father and son. Therapy sessions helped him untangle the manipulation Melissa had wrapped him in, and little by little, Evelyn saw her son emerge again, the boy she had raised hidden beneath years of control and guilt. Months later, Evelyn made a choice. She decided to move to the Key West mansion Richard had bought for her, a place where she could breathe freely, surrounded by the ocean he had loved so much. Before she left, she transferred the Buckhead house into Andrew's name and created an education trust for Chloe and Ethan. "This is for your future," she told them, "but it comes with conditions, good grades, community service, and letters each year about the lessons you've learned." When she finally stepped onto the sunlit terrace of her Key West home, Evelyn felt Richard's presence in the sea breeze. She was no longer a victim, no longer a servant in her own house. She was free, dignified, and at peace. And every Sunday, Andrew and the children called. Their voices carried love, honesty, and the respect Evelyn had fought so hard to reclaim. She had lost much, but she had gained something priceless: the knowledge of her true worth and the bond with her son, rebuilt on truth instead of illusion. As she watched Chloe and Ethan run barefoot on the beach during their first visit, Evelyn whispered to herself, "Richard, you were right. You gave me freedom, and I used it to find us again." Her story wasn't about revenge, it was about redemption, dignity, and the unbreakable strength of a woman who refused to be erased. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. What do you think about Evelyn's decision? Was she right to stay silent until the truth came out? Or should she have revealed her wealth sooner? Do you believe Andrew deserves full forgiveness? Or should some wounds never fully heal? If you found this story powerful, comment 100 below. Tell us what country you're watching from, and don't forget to share this video so others can feel the impact of Evelyn's journey.